Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
We're learning about different population interactions and we started with predation. So let's learn more about predation. We learned about the different ways in which predators help in maintaining the ecological balance. They help in maintaining species diversity. They play an important role in controlling the prey population. Then one more point we learned. What is that? Vidur, what is the point? 3 points we learned. They are highly useful in controlling the prey population. Then they play an important role in biological control. And third point, helps in maintaining
Species diversity.
diversity. Now let's see some of the defenses. Yes.
Can you show once that slide of maintaining species diversity?
This one, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait. Not this one. This one. Maintain species diversity in a community by reducing the intensity of competition among the competing prey species. So same predator for several prey species, and these prey species amongst these species, there'll be a competition for the resources. So when there is a predator, they will keep a check on the prey population. And on an experimental basis, the starfish Pisaster was removed from a closed intertidal area. So within a year, scientists could notice the extinction of more than 10 species of invertebrates, and they became extinct because of the competition between competition that happened among the members of the different species. But if Pisaster or if the starfish or that predator was there, this would not have happened because they would have kept a check on the prey population.
Okay.
Yes. Now moving on to some defenses of prey species to lessen the impact of predation. So to escape from these predators, what are the defenses the prey species have? So here you see a frog that is camouflage. You might have seen, it is seen among dried leaves. And that brown color of its body is matching with the surrounding. We cannot easily make out. Even we have seen insects, snakes also like this. Am I right? They can easily camouflage. They can easily match with the surroundings. See, nobody can make out there is an insect over there. Leaf insect, then monarch butterfly. Monarch butterfly, I will tell you what is its significance. There is another butterfly known as viceroy butterfly, which will mimic this monarch butterfly. We'll come to that later. Some insects and frogs are camouflage, cryptically colored, means mysteriously colored, and some are poisonous. So an example for the poisonous one is seen in the third figure, monarch butterfly. So they are poisonous because they have some poisonous substances in them. And the first two, insects and frogs, they are camouflage, so that they can easily escape from their predators. The predators cannot easily notice them in that particular background, and some of them are poisonous. And the monarch butterfly is highly distasteful. It doesn't taste good to its predators. The reason is there is a special chemical substance in its body. You call it as these substances as cardiac glycosides. Cardiac glycosides, and these chemicals they are getting when it is in its caterpillar stage. And at that time, when they feed on a poisonous weed, milkweed, okay, when they feed on this milkweed, Asclepias, you don't have to learn about the name of the weed, just understand milkweed. It is actually Asclepias. Asclepias. Asclepias is the name of that milkweed. By feeding on in the caterpillar stage, when they feed on this milkweed, they get these chemicals. These chemicals are not harming them, but these chemicals, because of the presence of these chemicals, they taste very bad for their predators. So the predator birds will avoid them because of the bad taste. Okay. Once again, monarch butterfly is highly distasteful to its predator bird. The reason is when it feeds on milkweed, a poisonous weed, Asclepias. I'll just write it here. Just a minute. The name of the weed is Asclepias or milkweed. Can you read? When it feeds on this milkweed, certain chemicals get stored in their body. Certain chemicals get stored in their body. They are cardiac glycosides. The chemical is cardiac glycosides. They get stored in their body, and because of the presence of these chemicals, they taste very bad. It is distasteful to its predator. So the predator birds will try to avoid them because of these chemicals. So that is one defensive mechanism. Then camouflaging, ability to camouflage, that is another defense mechanism. And I told you about monarch butterfly. There is yet another butterfly which you call as viceroy butterfly. Viceroy butterfly, they mimic this particular monarch butterfly. So at a glance, both look very similar, but there is difference in size and slight pattern difference is also there. Some black lines are extra in case of viceroy butterfly. Their hind wings are having some black lines, which is not found in, or those lines are not found in monarch butterfly. And they try to mimic this monarch butterfly. The reason is monarch butterfly, because of the presence of these chemicals, is highly distasteful to the predator bird. So when they see viceroy butterfly, they'll think it is monarch butterfly, which is not at all tasty, and they will avoid them. Thus, they can save. And you call it as Batesian mimicry. You don't have to learn about it. Batesian mimicry. Batesian mimicry means imitating some other organism, or palatables palatables mimic unpalatable ones, means taste, even the tasty ones, means even those which are not having any chemicals or which are not distasteful also will try to imitate the others which are having some chemical substances in them. So that is not included in your textbook. Since it was mentioned about monarch butterfly, I just said there is another butterfly which mimics this monarch butterfly to escape from its predators, because monarch butterfly is having some chemical substances in them, and due to the presence of these chemicals, this is avoided. It doesn't taste good, and the predators will avoid them. And viceroy butterfly mimics them so that they will also be avoided by the predators, thinking that that one is, or viceroy butterfly is monarch butterfly, because of the similarity in appearance. Okay, now moving on. Thorns. It's one of the most common morphological means of defense. Presence of thorns also will help them to escape from the predators. Acacia, cactus, etc. They have thorns. Because of the thorns also, they'll be avoided by the predators. Many plants produce chemicals, and certain plants, they can produce chemicals which make the herbivores sick. You know that herbivores are feeding on these plants, but if these plants are producing certain chemical substances which can make them sick, so this will inhibit feeding or digestion. So once these chemicals go into their body, their feeding and digestion will be inhibited. Their reproduction also, their ability to reproduce will get affected, and it can even result in the death of the animal. So that the animals will try to avoid such plants. Example, Calotropis. We call it Eric. I don't know. It is a medicinal plant actually. It is having so much of medicinal value. And this particular plant, it is found growing in abandoned fields, It's considered as a weed, but it is having medicinal value. They produce highly poisonous cardiac glycosides, the same chemical that we mentioned when we discussed about the monarch butterfly. And because of these chemicals present in them, herbivores, animals feeding on plants, they avoid this particular plant because these chemicals, if they get inside their body, that can create so much of complications and can even result in the death of the animal. So they have a tendency to avoid such plants. Therefore, cattle or goats do not eat it. Then nicotine. Nicotine is found in which plant? Nicotine is found in which plant? Children, we completed the chapter Human Health and Diseases. Nicotine. Tobacco plant. Caffeine. Caffeine. It's an alkaloid present in caffeine. Tea leaves and also coffee beans. Then
Alkaloids.
quinine. Quinine is present in. Have you heard about the malarial drug quinine? It's used for preparing, or it's a quinine is a malarial drug. It is used for treating malaria, and it is obtained from the bark of a tree known as cinchona. Cinchona, cinchona, cinchona tree. From its bark, this quinine is extracted and it can be used for treating malaria. But these substances, nicotine, caffeine, quinine, and strychnine. Strychnine is another substance, and strychnine is obtained from strychnine tree. Kanjiram, have you heard kanjiram? Which is very bitter in taste. Nobody have heard. Very good. So strychnine is another substance. Opium, from opium poppy. So these are some of the substances which act as defenses against grazers and browsers. So those plants which are having these substances in them will be avoided by the grazing animals. Grazing or browsing animals will generally avoid them because these chemicals can create complications. Once they take in, it can affect their body. So because of these chemicals, or because of the presence of these chemicals, they have a tendency to avoid such plants. So I'll repeat the points again. So some of the defensive mechanism, already we learned about the role of predator in maintaining the balance of ecosystem. They help in controlling the prey population, maintaining biodiversity, plays an important role in biological control of pests. And here the defensive mechanism adopted by the prey species to lessen the impact of predation or to escape from the predators. First point, insects, several insects and frogs, they can camouflage. Not only insects and frogs, there are many animals who can camouflage and escape from the predators, cryptically or mysteriously colored, and certain organisms are poisonous. One such example is monarch butterfly, and monarch butterfly, when they feed on milkweed plants in the caterpillar stage, they intake certain chemicals from a weed known as milkweed. So while they feed on this milkweed, these chemicals will get stored in their body, which is not affecting these butterflies, but they will be distasteful to its predators. So something which is not tasty, the predators will avoid, and thus they can escape from the predators. And I told you the case of viceroy butterfly also, which will mimic this monarch butterfly in appearance, so that they do not contain any chemicals in their body, viceroy. But since they resemble monarch butterfly, viceroy butterflies are also avoided by the predators. And I told such phenomenon, or this phenomenon is known as Batesian mimicry. Not in your textbook, I just said since it is an interesting fact. Batesian mimicry. Okay, now moving on to the next point. Thorns. So different plants are having thorns or spines on its body, and this will help them to keep the predators away. Acacia, cactus plant, then many plants can produce chemicals. So already we said about the case of milkweed, which has got chemicals in it. So similarly, many plants can produce some chemicals like cardiac glycosides. And once this is taken in, once these chemicals are eaten by the herbivores along with the parts of the plant that can affect their feeding, digestion, and interfere with their ability to reproduce and might lead to the death. So there is a tendency for the animals to avoid such plants. Example is Calotropis, or we say it is Erica in Malayalam, which is having medicinal value. You all might have seen. For knee pain and all, for different diseases, we use this particular leaves of this particular plant. Then this is a weed which is usually found growing in abandoned fields, and they produce highly poisonous cardiac glycosides. So grazing animals will avoid them. Nicotine, caffeine, quinine, strychnine, opium, etc. are some of the chemical substances which act as a defensive mechanism against the grazing or browsing animals. So plants which are having these substances will be avoided by them. Okay, any doubt? Any doubt? No. Michael, Sania, Niam, Anthony, Anna. Okay, Nandana, summarize the points.
Some insects and frogs are camouflaged and some are poisonous.
Okay, next point, Steffi.
The monarch butterfly is highly distasteful to its predator due to a special chemical in its body. This chemical is acquired during its caterpillar stage by feeding on a poisonous weed.
News read by. Now, without referring, you say the points. Huh.
Ma'am, 1 minute, can I read it?
Don't say the same. You close it. And you were listening to me for some time. Now you say it in your own words. Yes.
Monarch butterfly is very highly distasteful. That is why it is avoided by the predators.
And how it is, or what makes them distasteful?
It takes in some weeds which are containing some chemicals
Which stage?
at the
During which
caterpillar stage.
It feeds on which weed, I said? A poison weed.
Milkweed,
Milkweed. And these chemicals will make it
distasteful.
tasty. Okay. So it will be avoided by the predators. Meenakshi, another point.
Some have thorns in their body, which will
Example?
helps in defense. Cactus.
One more, acacia. Okay, Rijas, next point. Rijas has changed his location, I think. Okay, anyways, say.
Some plants have special chemicals which make herbivores sick.
Some plants, they produce chemicals. Upon eating these chemicals, animals can become sick. Then, sick means in what way they become sick?
Inhibit feeding or digestion.
Affect
Disrupt its
eating,
reproduction.
Okay, you are also reading. Then, so they will avoid such plants. Such plants will be avoided by these grazing animals. Then I told you about some of the chemicals which when present in plants act as defensive mechanism or act as defenses against these grazing animals. Which are those chemicals? Malavika?
Nicotine, quinine,
Nicotine,
caffeine,
quinine,
and
strychnine. Strychnine. Then what else? One more you said?
opium.
Opium. Okay. So those were the defensive mechanisms. And now can we have the seminar? Now time for me to take rest and enjoy. Donna, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Only 3 of you are taking seminar on this chapter, no? Only 3. Okay. What is the topic, Donna?
Industrial use of microbes.
Okay. So you want to share the screen, no?
Yes, ma'am.
And ready. Okay. You may ask questions to your friends. Okay. And friends can also ask questions to her. Make it lively. Yes. Start. Sania, where are you?
Good morning to, no, good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm going to be taking a seminar on microbes in industrial products. So first one, microorganisms are associated in a variety of ways with the food we eat, beverages, and antibiotics. And hence it is useful to many, it is useful for humans. So for production on industrial scale, it requires growing microbes in large vessels called fermenters. And this is a fermenter right here. Fermented beverages. Commercial production of ethanol is carried out with Saccharomyces cerevisiae, also known as brewer's yeast, which is used to ferment malted cereals and fruit juices that is used to produce ethanol. For example, sugarcane juice or sugar beet are the common substrates which is used in this production. And some other examples are wine and beer, which is produced without distillation, and whiskey, brandy, and rum are produced by distillation of fermented broth. Now, next is antibiotics. The word antibiotics, it's a Greek word, which means anti means against and bios means life. And they are chemical substances which are produced by some microbes that can kill or retard the growth of other disease-causing microbes, which is it is also used to treat a variety of diseases like whooping cough and plague. And the penicillin is the first antibiotic that is discovered by Alexander Fleming. It is the first antibiotic to be discovered. He discovered that a mold, Penicillin notatum, growing in unwashed culture plates around which Staphylococcus could not grow. From there, he extracted penicillin. And then in 1940, two scientists named Ernest Chain and Howard Florey obtained a relatively stable preparation of penicillin, and these were used in World War II for treating wounded soldiers. For their discovery and development, all these three scientists were awarded Nobel Peace Prize in 1945.
Peace prize.
And then the next topic is chemicals, enzymes, and other biotic molecules. Microbes are used for commercial and industrial production of certain chemicals, enzymes, and many other substances. First one, we'll start with organic acids. And some microbes produce these organic acids. And this is the table of the microbes producing these organic acids. That is, the Aspergillus niger produces citric acid, Acetobacter aceti produces acetic acid, Clostridium butylicum produces butylic acid, Lactobacillus produces lactic acid. And for ethanol, yeast is used to produce ethanol, and enzymes such as lipases, pectinases. Lipases are used in detergents, and it is also used for removing oily stains from clothes. And pectinases and proteases are used to clarify bottled juices. And streptokinase, which is produced by Streptococcus, and it is also used to remove clots from blood vessels. And cyclosporine A, which is produced by Trichoderma polysporum, and it is used as an immunosuppressive agent in organ transplant patients. And the next one is statins, which is produced by Monoscus purpureus, which is a yeast, and it is used as blood cholesterol lowering agents, and it inhibits enzymes responsible for the synthesis of cholesterol.
Okay, done.
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts, children? No doubts. And Donna, it was good, but I think somewhere you said about Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, no? Then one more point, Penicillium notatum. Notatum should be written in it should begin with small letters, species name. And you have to type it in italics. But in the table and all, you had done it correctly. Maybe you have missed it out. Okay. And who else? Malavika,
Ma'am, I took the same topic, ma'am.
same topic. And what about Punya? Punya, which
Ma'am,
topic? Yes,
sewage treatment.
you can start.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Donna, you have become thorough with the topic now. It's a very important topic. So many questions.
ma'am.
Yeah. If I ask questions, you'll be able to answer now. Okay. Okay, Punya, over to you. And
Ma'am,
two, yes.
just a minute. ma'am.
No problem. No problem. And Malavika, what is the other alternative? Is it in the same way you have presented or? Okay. Very colorful.
Ma'am, I have to. Good evening, everyone. Today, I am Punya speaking before you on the topic microbes and sewage treatment. So, we all know that large quantities of wastewater are generated every day in cities and towns. But have you ever wondered where this large quantity of sewage is disposed of every day? So this is obviously treated in the sewage treatment plants. So this is a rough idea of what a sewage treatment plant looks like. First of all the sewage water is collected from houses, offices, and all the other buildings, and it is taken to the treatment center. Then there is a screening stage in which all the big debris is removed, such as the big plastics. And then there's a primary and secondary treatment stage in which we'll be learning in detail. And then there's a primary treatment stage in which it is chlorinated, and finally it is released into the water bodies. So a major component of wastewater is human excreta. This municipal wastewater is called sewage, which is obviously going to be treated. It contains large quantities of organic matter and microbes, which are pathogenic. Hence, it cannot be directly discharged into natural water bodies like rivers and streams. So it means that human excreta has a large amount of organic matter and microbes, which if we release into the water bodies, it will lead to pollution of the water bodies and growth of algae, which we have already learned about. So you can see how dirty the water bodies are if we directly release it into the water bodies, and it will lead to a lot of diseases, and also we will not get pure water for drinking purpose. So before disposal, sewage is treated in sewage treatment plants, or STPs known in short, to make it less polluting. Treatment of wastewater is done by heterotrophic microbes, which means that they feed on other organisms and they do not photosynthesize, naturally present in the sewage. So the sewage on its own contains heterotrophic microbes, which will be treating it in in the secondary or biological treatment, in which we'll be learning about. This treatment is carried. So the sewage treatment is carried out in two stages. First one, primary treatment, and second one, secondary treatment. The secondary treatment is also called biological treatment since it involves heterotrophic microbes. So this is the aerial view of what a sewage treatment plant looks like. So first of all, we'll be doing the primary treatment. Primary treatment involves physical removal of large and small particles from the sewage. First of all, the floating debris is removed by sequential filtration. That means the sewage consists of different organic matter which have different mass. So according to that, they settle down. So by filtration, we can remove the different layers. Then the grit, that means the soil and small pebbles, is removed by sedimentation. All soils that settle form the primary sludge. So all the solids that settle down because of sequential filtration and sedimentation, and they form the primary sludge. And the supernatant, which lies above, which is dense, lighter in weight, it forms the effluent. This effluent from the primary settling tank is taken for secondary treatment. So we get two layers after primary treatment. First would be the primary sludge and the second would be the effluent. So we know that primary sludge is denser, so we can separate it by physical means, but the supernatant consists of large amount of organic matter and microbes. So we take it for secondary treatment. So the secondary treatment involves primary sludge. So in secondary treatment, primary effluent is passed into large aeration tanks. In aeration tanks, the effluent is constantly agitated mechanically and air is pumped into it. So aeration tanks, it involves a lot of agitation and pumping of air. Why are we doing this? Because in secondary treatment, the primary effluent has heterotrophic organisms which need oxygen to digest the organic matter present in it. So vigorous growth of useful aerobic microbes into phlox. So what is phlox? Phlox is a mass of bacteria associated with fungal filaments to form mesh-like structures. So this is a microscopic view of what a phlox looks like. It is a mass of bacteria associated with fungal filaments, which means that it's an aggregation of both bacteria and fungi. So when the effluent is agitated by pumping air into it, vigorous growth of useful aerobic microbes called phlox, which are the heterotrophic microbes, which help in removing the biological waste present in the sewage water. This phlox consume the major part of the organic matter in the effluent. Since they are heterotrophic, they consume the organic material present in the effluent. Then this reduces the biological oxygen demand. Now, what is biological oxygen demand? Biological oxygen demand, or BOD as it is known in short, refers to the amount of oxygen consumed by the phlox or heterotrophic bacteria to oxidize all the organic matter present in 1 liter of water. So it means that biological oxygen demand is a measure of organic matter present in water. So more the organic matter present in water, more the oxygen consumed by the bacteria, and hence the biological oxygen demand would be higher. The sewage water is treated till the biological oxygen demand is reduced. So consuming the phlox consume the organic matter, which reduces the biological oxygen demand, which means that the organic matter is being purified. The effluent is then passed into a settling tank when the bacterial phlox are allowed to sediment. So these bacterial phlox were in constant agitation and we were pumping air into it so that the phlox gets sufficient oxygen to digest the organic material. And once the organic material has been digested, the biological oxygen demand comes down and the effluent is then taken to the settling tank. In the settling tank, since the phlox have some amount of mass in them, they settle down just like the primary sludge had settled in the primary treatment. And then this sediment is called activated sludge. It's called activated sludge because it is sludge since it settles down, and it's activated since it helped us to purify the drinking water, purify the effluent. So the effluent from the secondary treatment plant is released into natural water bodies since the biological oxygen demand is less and now it is less polluting. But what about the large quantity of activated sludge? Some of the activated sludge is pumped back into the aeration tank to serve as an inoculum. Inoculum means it serves as a starting medium, which means that it helps to start a new culture in the secondary treatment plant. We know that secondary treatment plant involves phlox, which means that sorry for that. So activated sludge is pumped back into the aeration tank to serve as an inoculum. So some of these phlox are sent back to the secondary treatment plant so that they can serve as an inoculum. So it helps to start new phlox there, while the last part remaining sludge is taken back to anaerobic sludge digesters. Now, what are anaerobic sludge digesters? They are large tanks in which these phlox, which are the heterotrophic organisms, they are digested by another bacteria and fungal bacteria which are anaerobic. So they do not need oxygen and they consume these flocs. During their digestion, bacteria produce a mixture of gases such as methane, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide. So this activated sludge is taken to anaerobic sludge digesters, where anaerobic bacteria consume the flocs, that is the bacteria and fungals in the sludge. And during this process of digestion, they produce methane, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide. These gases form biogas. The gases methane, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide form biogas. And methane is the major component of it and can be used as a source of energy as it is inflammable. So this is the entire process of the secondary treatment plant. First of all, the primary effluent is taken to large aeration tanks. Then the effluent is constantly agitated. Then it has growth of flocs into it, which is a mesh of fungal and bacterial filaments. Then the flocs consume major part of the organic matter. Consuming the organic matter reduces the biological oxygen demand. Effluent is then taken to the settling tank. Then this forms the activated sludge. The flocs are removed and the effluent is released to the water bodies. Then the floc is taken to the activated, it forms the activated sludge and it is taken as the inoculum to serve as a medium, while the remaining part is taken to anaerobic sludge digesters. In the anaerobic sludge digesters, these flocs are digested by anaerobic bacteria. They produce methane, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide. And finally, it can be used as biogas. So most of the components in this sewage is useful for humans. We can use biogas and the water also does not get wasted. So this is the best possible way of treating sewage water. So we already saw what is flocs and biological oxygen demand. But due to increasing urbanization, sewage is being produced in much larger quantities. Day by day, industries are coming up and population is also increasing, which increases the sewage quantity. But the number of sewage treatment plants have not increased. So the untreated sewage water is often discharged directly into rivers, and this leads to pollution. This increases the risk of waterborne disease, and it also leads to the death of aquatic plants and animals. So here you can see when the untreated sewage water is directly released, and even humans use it, even cattle and animals use it for drinking purpose, and it also, even humans use this for drinking as well as bathing or washing purpose, and it leads to very unhygienic practices causing very terrible diseases. So to overcome this problem, the Ministry of Environment and Forests has initiated the Ganga Action Plan and Yamuna Action Plan to save major rivers in our country from pollution. Under these plans, it has been proposed to build a large number of sewage treatment plants so that only treated sewage may be discharged into rivers and the river pollution can be controlled. So I hope everything is clear, and if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. So I hope everything is clear. Thank you.
No doubts, children? Don't have any doubts, no? All have understood well now? And Punya, well done. Very energetic presentation. And the way you introduced and concluded the topic was also appealing. Good. And everyone, when you take the seminar, no, try to make it little different from what others have done. Try to put something or add your innovations into that. Anyway, well done. Okay. And next class, others be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, children. See you next class.
Thank you, ma'am.